Hello beautiful people, and welcome to today's video where I am trying my hand at vlogging. I've always been very intrigued about vlogging. I've always enjoyed watching them, and I've always wondered whether I would enjoy filming, editing, and posting them. So here we are. I moved out by myself 2 months ago, and I'm gonna be talking a little bit about what it is like to live alone and the whole transition. But basically, in this vlog, we are decorating my house for Christmas and meal prepping a little bit. Here you will be able to see that I'm moving things around quite a little bit. This tree isn't, I didn't buy it, there's my cat. I didn't buy this Christmas tree, and I'm gonna explain this box. You're probably wondering what the heck that is. As I was saying, I did not buy this Christmas tree. This tree is my mom's. We were both living together in a bigger house, and when I moved out, she was going to be by herself, and she decided that she didn't actually want to be living in a house that was so big just for herself, and so she moved out as well into a smaller home. The house where she is, the living room, is too small for this tree. This tree is quite the chunky girl, and so basically I'm using this tree at the moment, and she came up with another solution for herself, which she found good. That little box is due to the fact that two things. I always like to have the Christmas presents underneath the tree, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but the tree, she has very little to no space between the branches and the floor if she's not on the little stepping box situation. So the box allows me to have that room to put presents underneath, and also the tree is a little bit shorter than what I would have wanted it to be. I like trees that are a bit more slender and taller. She's kind of chunky and small. There's my other cat. And so the box is essentially, I grabbed the box from the new TV that my mom got. I cut it all up, I glued the corners together, filled it with styrofoam, and TV boxes are really very sturdy, and so the tree can stand on it no problem. It withstands the weight perfectly, and it just gives me that little space. It makes it taller, makes it look a little bit more elegant, and it gives me that space to have the presents underneath. So that is my solution for this. But yeah, as far as the whole living alone thing, I moved out about 2 months ago, and it has been a journey, to say the least. First of all, if you are watching this because you're going to be moving out, or you want to be moving out, a few tips to start off with. Prep your move a little bit before you actually do it, and by that I mean get some basic things that you're going to need. Towels, plates, random things, if you're capable of doing that, because when you move out, you realize the amount of silly little things that you use on a daily basis that you don't realize that someone had to buy it for you to have to use it. When I moved out, I was like, okay, cool, I have everything that I need, because I had been preparing things for me to move out. Even as far as like buying little things, buying towels, buying plates, buying kitchenware, buying basically everything that I thought I would need. There are still some really basic things that I was missing. When I went to cook for the first time, I realized that I didn't really have like any wooden spoons to cook with. I am Portuguese. If I do not have a wooden spoon to cook with, I do not know what to do with myself. I didn't have like some basic kitchen utensils, which I thought I had covered. I didn't. And still little things that you notice throughout the time that you're missing, and those little things add up as far as money goes. So tip number one would be prep if you can. Tip number two is it's gonna cost more than what you think it is, because there will be little things that you think are very important and aren't very expensive, but together they will add up quite a little bit. So prepare as much as you can, if possible. If you are, let's say, if you're thinking about moving out in 2024, ask your family and friends to like give you Christmas gifts or birthday presents, whatever fits you, that will help you move out. So if you're capable of doing that, usually people will take that seriously, because if they notice that it's a serious goal of yours, they will be happy to chip in. And let's say it's the factor of this is a useful present. Parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, they'll usually be very happy to contribute to your future well-being. In most cases, of course, there are some unfortunate scenarios, but if you tell them, hey, I want to move out, I'm serious about this, I'm thinking about planning for my future, would you be willing to consider like giving me things like silverware, plates, cups, bowls, towels, linens, whatever you think would be useful for you? Ask them to chip in for that, or even just ask them to chip in for money if that would be something that your family would be okay with, so that you can have like a little moving by yourself fund. In this economy, honestly, that might actually be the best present possible. But yes, tip number 3, when you move out, and this is what I'm doing right now in the footage, meal prep. Meal prep will save you so much time when you're actually living by yourself. Maybe this is already the case for you when you were living with your parents or whatever, or while you were living with them, where when you don't really have full control of the kitchen, even if you do cook, because I did really cook quite a bit while I was living with my mom, but I didn't really have full control of the kitchen because I wasn't the only person living there, of course. When you have full control of the kitchen and you are the only person responsible for getting groceries, cooking everything, making sure that you're eating the things that are sitting in the fridge or sitting in the shelves, that really adds a whole other level of 1, responsibility, and 2, time consumption. You actually have to put a lot of thought into what you're going to be eating. And for example, I have a hybrid work schedule. Some days I work at home, some days I work in the office. When I'm going to be in the office, I have to account for that, for what I'm going to be making. There are some things that are just not practical to take to the office. If I'm going to be going to the office, let's say for the next three days, it's usually good if I have something cooked that I can take to the office for the next 3 meals straight, because on the days where I am going to the office, I have less time to come home and then also cook. I want to relax when I'm coming home and not have to really worry about making food. So these are really things that you really have to sit down and think about. If you're wondering how the heck you do it, actually in my December bullet journal setup video, I made a meal prep spread. If you guys would consider making something like that, just to have a visual and physical way of writing down what you're going to be making, and just to see it very clearly on your monthly schedule. Meal prepping is usual both for saving up your money and also considering the groceries that you have in your fridge, in your freezer, in your shelves, and so you have a better idea of what you need to get, better idea of what you have that you need to use up sooner or later, and just saving up money. Because if you are smart about how you meal prep for the month, you can actually save a good amount of money. So these are definitely the things that I recommend. In the video, what I made initially was soup. What I do with soup is I cut up a bunch of veggies in one go, and I make one soup in that moment, and I make 2 batches of prepped veggies to make soup in the fridge. And what I do with that, not fridge, sorry, freezer, and I just, whenever I need to make soup again, I just pull that bag of veggies out of the freezer. Literally everything is in there, including the onions and the garlic, absolutely everything. I just need to put that in a pot, add some water, put it on the stove, let that cook down, and I will have some soup ready in no time at all. I also toasted up some pecans. I'd love to have those on hand. Right now, I'm either making the oats or the pancakes. One of those 2 things. I think I'm making the pancakes. Yeah, I don't see oats. I'm sorry, I forget in which order I did this because I did a lot of stuff in one sitting. Also, when you are meal prepping, think about the time that you have to cook and make it as efficient as possible. If you're going to be using the oven, maybe try getting 2 things in there. If you're going to be using the stove, think about something you can let cook. Like, for example, while I'm doing this, the stove is on the stove. The soup is on the stove cooking down. And that is something that I don't really need to watch, and so that gives me the time to be making the pancakes. And yes, I prep breakfasts because why? I am a breakfast kind of person. I don't like to just grab something quick to eat. I enjoy having a proper breakfast. And also, when I work in the office, if I'm in the morning shift, I do eat breakfast there. So I do need to account for that. I don't just prep lunch to take with me, I prep breakfast as well. So that is something to consider if you have a similar work schedule. And so yeah, when you're meal prepping, think about things that you can organize well, as far as time that you have to cook, and as far as like utensils, appliances. Make the most with the time that you have. If you're very smart about this, you can actually get a lot of stuff done in a short amount of time. In this meal prepping session, I got a lot of things done. I made the soup. Here I'm just prepping veggies to put in the soup. I made the soup. I had 2 batches of veggies to make soup in the freezer. I also cut up some mushrooms and some red bell pepper to have in the freezer as well. That's another thing. If you can just have like chopped veggies in the freezer, even if it's not a full-blown meal, that will also save you some time when you're using things in the future. So for example, I do use mushrooms every now and then, and I will use up some red bell pepper. I don't ever use a full red bell pepper, so if I just buy one and cut it up when I need it, the rest of it is gonna go bad. I'm gonna have to freeze it anyway, so I just freeze the whole thing and have it ready on hand for whenever I have to use it. But as I was saying, in the session I made 1 soup, 2 batches of veggies for soup in the freezer. I made oats. I toasted the pecans. I cut up bell pepper and mushrooms. I made pancakes. And I think that was it for this session, which was quite a bit if you're thinking about the fact that this took me, I think, 2 hours. And it only took me that long because one of the things that I was missing as far as kitchen appliances was a little peeler. And so I had to peel the carrots and all of the veggies with a knife, which took me a lot longer than I care to admit because I'm used to using a peeler and my knife skills aren't to that level. But yeah, like I said, 2 hours, and this ensured me a lot of meals and really made my life easier for the future. So like I said, meal prepping is absolutely the way to go. As far as what living alone is like, as much as you think about what it's going to be like, as much as you think it through, as much as you like mentally prepare yourself, nothing really prepares you for how it's going to hit. It kind of just happens out of nowhere. You're so, at least this is what happened to me, you're so caught up in the whole moving stress and planning things for the move and making sure that you have everything and stressing out about what you have and what you don't have and about what you need to spend and whatever, that when it happens, it kind of just catches you off guard. It's like, oh wait, it's done. Like, I've moved out. It's official now. Like, I'm living alone. And yeah, so I was so frazzled and so caught up in the whole moving stress and I need to get this, I need to get that. It's like, oh wait. Oh. And also because I had a date planned and I ended up moving 2 days before schedule. And so that didn't really help. But things like that might happen. You might have delays. You might actually have a date planned out in your head and realize that it actually needs to happen sooner. You will be stressed. There's no other way around it. Even if you're super excited, which I was, it's still a stressful time. And then it kind of hits you. It's like, oh wait, it's happened. And then the first night alone, I fully recommend making some kind of like a ritual around it. I had new linens to put on the bed. I had a new pajama. I was like, I'm gonna take a relaxing shower and I'm gonna get into bed, crawl in there with a book and light a candle. And I did that just to make it like as cozy and calm and peaceful as possible, so that it was kind of enjoyable and kind of just a calm moment within the madness. Because even when the whole move is done and it's your first night there, you will still have boxes or bags of things that you need to clean up, put away, have everything settled in its own place. And so it's kind of a prolonged chaos effect. The whole thing isn't done and finished when you move out. Mercifully, I planned my move in a way that all the furniture was in its place and assembled by the time I moved in. So it was really only bags of things that I needed to like have brought in and put everything in its place, because I knew, knowing myself, that I wanted to minimize the chaos that I would have around me when I was moving in, just so that I would have a bit more ease of mind. I decided that was the best option for me. So if you like some peace, I would recommend trying to do that if that is possible for you. Okay, so this meal prep session took place in another day, and honestly it's part meal prep session and part experimenting with making things from scratch. To add some context, I am intolerant to gluten, and so I am dabbling my feet in making a lot more things from scratch so that I can make my life easier with that regard. I do have access to a good amount of gluten-free stuff, but a few things. Most of those things are much more expensive than the usual non-gluten-free items, and they have a lot of added stuff to them, a lot of like additives, a lot of corn syrups and weird things. Usually they don't really taste that great, and so I am dabbling in, and also a lot of things that you usually find that are, let's say, normal, you can't really find gluten-free. So I am dabbling in making a lot more things from scratch so that I can, well, save up a little bit on groceries, because if you make some things from scratch, they will actually be cheaper if you are making them gluten-free. And also there are just some things that I cannot find, or that I can find them but I don't like the way that they taste. So that's what's happening. For some background story, at where I work, we have vending machines and we have the possibility of taking out a few items per day. The dry nuts that I'm using in this and the dehydrated apples, as you can see, I just dropped a bunch of bags of those in the counter. Those come from my work. So this really is a lot cheaper than buying it already made, because these things I got for free, which thank you to the company I work at. Yeah, right now I am making homemade granola. I made a good amount. I have no idea of how much I made, like weight wise, but I think I tripled this recipe, and I have like a pretty big like jar with this granola, and I have been eating it for a little bit because it has been a little bit since I filmed this. Number one, it's delicious. It's way better than the store-bought one, and I made a big amount for a very small amount of money. And gluten-free granola, at least the good ones, are pricey, so I definitely recommend this. Basically, I just use some gluten-free rolled oats, the dry nuts. I added some cornflakes in because I wanted to experiment with the texture, and I added some dehydrated apple. And then you just add in your honey, your butter, whatever the recipe calls for. I'm gonna see if I can find the recipe that I used to put in the description box. If I can find it, I'll put it in there. But definitely recommend trying homemade granola. And I'm also going to be considering possibly maybe making chocolate granola at some point in the future. I also had some dehydrated cranberries, which I considered using, but I was kind of scared of how that would go with the oven. I was scared that it would like caramelize or something, but I will consider that in the future. Another thing about moving out on your own and going to live by yourself, if you are in a situation like mine, the whole thing with getting the place, getting it renovated, planning the move, doing the move, and then also just finally being there was that I spent so much time thinking ahead to planning everything, thinking about what it's going to be like and trying to make it as smooth as possible, that I was in such a mentality of planning it that when it actually happened, it's like, now what? Now what do I do with myself? Because you do spend so much time in that mentality of, okay, getting it to happen, like, okay, I need to get this, I need to prepare that, I need to make sure that this goes on smoothly and this happens this way, and I want to get this and not that, and in such a big preparing mode that when it's actually done and it has happened, you're still in that kind of mindset of preparing something and looking ahead to the future. And so I was in this mixed feeling situation of wanting to stop that and be present and just enjoy the moment, be grateful for it finally coming to pass, and for me finally being able to live this thing that I wanted so much. And also thinking, okay, like, now what? Now what do I have as a goal for my future? Now, what can I, while still being grateful in the moment for what I have right now, what can I strive for it in the future? Because I think that you should always have goals for yourself in the future, and you don't necessarily need to be super present to the degree where you stop making goals. Like, sure, you should be grateful for the things that you have achieved, but you still also need to always keep goals in mind, because that's what keeps you motivated and that's what keeps you going. And so I found that for me, now that I have, like, let's say my headquarters figured out, there are some skills that I want to work on a bit more. I want to work more on cooking from scratch, crocheting, just making things for myself. That is something that I really want to work on. That is something that I really enjoy, that really brings me peace. And that's another thing. When you move out on your own, you have the whole place for yourself, and you end up having a lot more time on your own, and just with your own thoughts, with your own person. You find out a lot more, at least this is what happened to me, about the things that actually bring you peace, that make you feel productive, that make you feel accomplished. And for me, if I sit down on the couch for the whole day and just watch TV, I'm a mess. My head is not working as it should. I feel unproductive. I feel bad about myself. I feel like I just wasted my whole day. You put me cooking things from scratch, trying on new recipes, trying on like a new crochet stitch or pattern or whatever, and I am just so peaceful, so present in the moment, and so happy that it's completely priceless. And that process of finding out those things that make you feel that way is, I would 100% say, is the best part of moving out and having your space. You're probably wondering what the heck I'm working on right now. As the granola is baking in the oven, I am making some cinnamon crunch cereal. I did mention before, I'm a big breakfast person, and honestly, the breakfast projects, as far as gluten-free things goes, are some of the easiest, because, well, with the granola, nothing has to rise. It's not baked goods, in the sense that it's not bread, it's not cake. So usually things that you don't really have to leaven and that don't need to rise are easier to make, and this is one of those things. I can't even find at all, at least where I live, I can't really find cinnamon cereal that is gluten-free. the most that I can find is like granola, some Cocoa Puffs. I can find like sometimes some like honey, like cereal. I don't know what you guys call them in English. But that's the most that I can find. I have never found anything like this that was gluten-free, so I saw the recipe and I was like, I've never made anything like this, so this is going to be a fun experiment. I will say, if you make this recipe, I'm pretty sure that I can find it, so I'll have it down below for you guys to try. You can also make it normal if you don't want to make it gluten-free. This was so delicious, but I want to try that again in the future, because I kind of messed it up because I didn't roll it out to be thin enough. So the edges were beautiful, crunchy, flaky, absolutely amazing. The center, it's a little bit too thick, so it's not as enjoyable as it could have been, but the flavor is definitely there. It is so yummy, and it really hits different. It really hits different from the store-bought gluten-free cereal, which are usually kind of meh. So I'm really happy with these cereal. Yeah, fun experiment. Definitely recommend. Also, if you just want to try something different as like a little project, or even Christmas is coming up, if you want to gift some homemade things to maybe some friends or some family, this would make such a beautiful gift. It's so different from the usual like baked goods that people sometimes give away. You just make some of them, they look beautiful baked. Get some of these, put them in a little mason jar, beautiful gift. See what I mean? Look at how beautiful those are. It's such a beautiful color. It has a really nice texture to it because the recipe calls for you to add some granulated sugar on top, so it actually has nice texture, and it does look prettier in person. But those look super cute. As for the granola, you saw me putting them back in the oven. It was a little bit too moist. I think I made it too big of a batch to make in one go. But yeah, these were the cereal and the granola that I made, and both turned out just really great. Definitely recommend, and we'll be doing this again in future meal preps. As for my Christmas projects, I wasn't done with the Christmas tree. I saw this really cute Christmas wreath. I actually do not know how you pronounce that word. The little round thing that you put in your door. I saw some really gorgeous ones in decoration stores, but they are getting pricey this year. They didn't used to be this expensive. I feel like some stores are really just taking advantage of the whole inflation thing to just take advantage of people and rip them off blindly. So I saw this one. The base was so beautiful, and it was considerably cheap. I think it was like 10 euros or 14. It was something like that. It was very cheap in comparison to the other ones that were very flashy, but honestly the bases were looking very weird and they were way too expensive. And I had these small baubles at home, which I knew I was going to be having too many to put in the tree. So I had them available to do something with them, and I just got the wreath, got the little ribbon. I handmade this like 3-bow bow. I have no idea what you would call that. I got my hot glue gun. I also had these pine cones that I used in some DIYs a few years back. I'm the type of person that I will absolutely hoard DIY materials. I get excited around the Christmas, I DIY stuff, and then I have a surplus of materials, which came in handy. this year. So I glued on some pine cones. I had the idea of also gluing on some star anise, which looked so cute, and honestly it gives the wreath a really beautiful scent. It smells like star anise. It's really, really cute. I actually thought about gluing on some cinnamon, but I thought that would be a little bit wasteful, so I refrained from doing that. And I'm just gluing on the baubles as well. Some of them are just like a pearly finish, some are glittery, some are metallic, and it gives a beautiful touch to the wreath, or wreath, whatever you pronounce that as. And here's the finished one. I did not film myself putting it on the door. I live in an apartment building, and I didn't really feel comfortable filming me putting it outside because it is a common area. So yeah. And here I have this little window separating thingy between the kitchen and the living room. My parents, the house where I'm living in, it was the house where I grew up in. And my parents had this made either in the 80s or the 90s. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain. I was gonna mention something like you usually saw something like this on like 80s or 90s TV shows because it was very in at the time, I think. And I love this thing so much because you know what? It allows me to watch TV while I cook because it's right in front of my little kitchen top, which is perfect. And I saw this little garland at the store where I bought the wreath, and I thought, you know what, this is gonna look so pretty hanging in there. It's gonna decorate a little bit more on top of my couch. And so I had some extra lights. I rolled them around the garland because it did come with some lights, but they were kind of faint. And I was like, this is going on there. It's gonna be super shiny. I'm gonna put it on top of my couch. It's gonna look really pretty. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Please excuse the mess on the couch. Yeah, it just is what it is at this point. And yeah, guys, that is the finished look. I'm really happy with how this little DIY turned out. Just trying to make the couch look presentable at this point, so it looks pretty. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this and allowing me the space to experiment with vlogging. I did quite enjoy the process, so more might come in the future. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspired you in some way. Let me know what you thought of this little venture, and yeah, thank you. Have a great day. Bye!